Commander Jake Morrison walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Council building on Nexus Prime. The walls were made of strange blue crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. He had been Earth's representative here for 3 years now. 3 long years of trying to prove that humans deserved a place among the stars. Jake remembered the day he first arrived at this alien world. The Council had invited Earth to join them after human ships made first contact with a Zephyrian trade vessel near Jupiter. The aliens seemed friendly enough. They spoke of peace and cooperation between species. They promised to share knowledge and technology if humans proved themselves worthy. At first, everything seemed perfect. The Council gave Earth access to faster-than-light travel. They shared star charts showing safe routes through space. They even helped humans establish colonies on 3 different worlds in the Outer Rim. Jake thought humanity had finally found its place in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Carter was working in the science wing of the Council building today. She spent most of her time there now. The alien scientists had welcomed her with open arms. They said human biology was fascinating. They wanted to learn everything about how humans worked. Lisa was happy to help. She thought she was building bridges between species. Lisa had shared detailed information about human DNA. She explained how humans could adapt to different environments so quickly. She told them about human immune systems and how they fought off diseases. The aliens seemed very interested in human reproduction rates, too. They asked many questions about how fast human populations could grow. Captain Ryan Brooks was commanding the human defense fleet in the Perseus Arm sector. His ships protected Council mining operations from pirates and raiders. The work was dangerous, but Ryan felt proud to serve alongside alien allies. His fleet of 20 ships worked with Council forces to keep the trade routes safe. Ryan trusted his alien counterparts completely. When Council Admiral Kethmar asked him to position human ships at specific coordinates, Ryan followed orders without question. When the Admiral requested detailed reports on human ship capabilities and crew numbers, Ryan provided everything they asked for. The mining operations were going well. Human engineers worked side by side with alien workers to extract valuable minerals from asteroid belts. The aliens praised human efficiency and dedication. They said humans were natural workers who could handle difficult conditions better than most species. Lieutenant Alex Turner had been feeling uneasy for months. Something about the aliens bothered him, but he could not put his finger on what it was. The Council members were always polite and friendly when speaking to humans. But Alex noticed they acted differently when they thought no humans were watching. Alex decided to do something that could get him in serious trouble. He started hiding small recording devices in areas where Council members met privately. He told himself he was just being careful. Earth needed to know what their new allies really thought about humans. The first few recordings were boring. Council members discussed trade agreements and shipping schedules. But then Alex found something that made his blood run cold. He discovered that the Council had been meeting in secret to discuss what they called the human problem. The recording was clear. Admiral Kethmar was speaking to other high-ranking Council members about humanity's rapid progress. He said humans learned too fast and adapted too quickly. The Admiral worried that humans might become a threat to Council authority within just a few generations. Another voice on the recording belonged to High Counselor Vexthi of the Crystalline Collective. She agreed that humans were dangerous. She pointed out how quickly human technology had advanced since first contact. She noted that human ships were already matching Council designs in some areas. The most chilling part came when they discussed solutions. The Council had apparently been planning this for over a year. They wanted to eliminate humanity before humans became too powerful to stop. The plan was simple and brutal. They would position human colonies and fleets in vulnerable locations, then arrange for attacks that would wipe them out. Alex listened to hours of recordings with growing horror. The Council had been feeding Earth false information about hostile alien species in distant sectors. They were deliberately sending human ships into areas where these enemies operated. The goal was to weaken human forces through constant combat losses. The aliens had also been studying human weaknesses through Dr. Carter's research. They wanted to develop biological weapons that would target human DNA specifically. The diseases would spread quickly through human populations while leaving alien species unharmed. Jake Morrison was attending a routine council session when Alex Turner burst into the chamber. The young lieutenant looked pale and frightened. He carried a datapad containing all the secret recordings he had gathered over the past few months. Jake could not believe what he was hearing as Alex played the recordings. The voices of alien leaders discussing humanity's destruction filled the crystal chamber. Other human representatives gathered around to listen. Dr. Carter arrived and heard her own research being discussed as a weapon against her own species. The truth hit Jake like a physical blow. Everything humans had built with the Council was a lie. Every friendship they thought they had made was false. The aliens had been planning genocide from the very beginning. They had used human trust and cooperation as tools to make the coming destruction easier. Captain Brooks received an urgent message from Jake Morrison while his fleet was on patrol. The message contained copies of all the recordings Alex had discovered. Brooks felt sick as he realized how completely he had been fooled. His detailed reports on human ship capabilities were being used to plan attacks against Earth forces. The recording revealed that the first major attack would come soon. The Council was planning to hit human colonies and outposts simultaneously. They would make the attacks look like they came from hostile alien raiders. Earth would never know that their trusted allies had betrayed them. Jake knew they had to act fast. He sent coded messages to all human ships and colonies warning them about the coming betrayal. But he feared it might already be too late. The Council's plan was already in motion. Human lives were about to be lost because Earth had trusted too easily. As Jake looked around the crystal chambers where he had spent 3 years building what he thought was lasting peace, he felt only anger and determination. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans would be easy to destroy because humans seemed so trusting and cooperative, but the Council did not understand humans at all. When humans were betrayed and threatened with extinction, they did not simply accept their fate. They fought back with everything they had. The aliens were about to learn this lesson the hard way. The distress call came through at 400 hours ship time. Colony Administrator Kate Phillips was sleeping in her quarters on Kepler 442b when the emergency alarm woke her. She rushed to the communication center where her staff was already gathering around the main display screen. The message was from the Council's Emergency Coordination Center on Nexus Prime. They were reporting that long-range sensors had detected a massive asteroid on collision course with Kepler 442b. The impact would happen in less than 18 hours. All human personnel needed immediate evacuation. Kate had been running the mining colony for 18 months. Over 300 human engineers and workers lived here alongside 2,000 alien personnel from various Council species. The operation was one of the most successful joint ventures between humans and the Council. They were extracting rare minerals that both sides needed for their technologies. The asteroid threat seemed real enough. Kate's own sensors confirmed a large object was heading toward their world. The math checked out too. If the asteroid hit, it would cause planet-wide devastation. Everyone on the surface would die from the impact or the environmental damage that followed. Kate immediately sent an emergency request to Earth Command, asking for evacuation ships. She also activated the colony's emergency protocols. All non-essential operations shut down. Workers began packing only the most important equipment and personal items. The alien personnel were making similar preparations. Captain Danny Rodriguez received the evacuation order while his fleet was resupplying at Mars Station. He commanded 12 ships including medical vessels and large transport craft designed for emergency evacuations. His wife, Commander Susan Wells, led the escort destroyers that would protect the evacuation fleet from any threats. Danny had worked with the Kepler 442b colony before. He knew Kate Phillips personally and respected her leadership. He also knew that 300 human lives depended on his fleet reaching them in time. The trip would take 14 hours at maximum speed. That left very little margin for error. The fleet launched within 2 hours of receiving the distress call. Danny's flagship UES Denver led the formation with Susan's destroyers spread out in protective positions around the slower transport ships. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez worked frantically to squeeze every bit of speed from the engines. During the long journey to Kepler 442b, Danny reviewed everything he knew about asteroid impacts. The size and speed of the incoming object meant total destruction for anything on the planet's surface. Even if some people survived the initial impact, the dust and debris thrown into the atmosphere would make the world uninhabitable for years. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system exactly 14 hours after launch. Danny expected to see a quiet system with normal traffic patterns around the mining world, Instead, his sensors immediately detected multiple ships in combat positions around the planet. The tactical display showed at least 30 vessels engaged in what appeared to be a fierce battle. Some ships were clearly attacking the colony while others seemed to be defending it. Energy weapons fire lit up the space around Kepler 442b like deadly fireworks. Commander Wells brought her destroyers forward to investigate the situation. Her sensors identified the attacking ships as belonging to the Void Hunters, a mysterious alien species that the Council had warned humans about many times. The Void Hunters were supposed to be ruthless raiders who attacked any world they could find. The defending ships showed Council identification codes. It looked like Council forces had arrived ahead of the human evacuation fleet and were fighting to protect the colony. Danny felt relieved that their allies were already helping to defend human lives. Danny ordered his fleet into defensive formation and moved toward the planet. The transport ships would need to get close to the surface to evacuate everyone quickly. The destroyers would provide cover while the evacuation proceeded. But something felt wrong to Danny as they got closer to the fighting. The battle seemed too organized for a random raid. The attacking ships were using formation tactics that suggested careful planning, rather than opportunistic piracy. Their weapons fire was also more precise than he expected from raiders. Chief Engineer Martinez was monitoring the energy signatures from both sides of the battle. He had studied Void Hunter technology before, and something about these readings bothered him. The weapon signatures looked familiar but not quite right. Martinez ran the energy patterns through the ship's database of known alien technologies. What he found made his stomach drop. The attacking ships were not using Void Hunter weapons at all. They were using Council technology with some kind of modification to disguise the signatures. Martinez immediately contacted Captain Rodriguez with his findings. The attacking ships were Council vessels using holographic projectors to look like Void Hunters. The humans were flying straight into a carefully planned trap. Danny tried to warn the other ships in his fleet, but it was too late. The fake Void Hunter ships had been waiting for the human fleet to get close enough. They suddenly changed targets and opened fire on the approaching evacuation vessels. The first salvo destroyed 3 transport ships instantly. Hundreds of human crew members died in the opening seconds of the attack. The remaining ships tried to scatter, but they were trapped between the planet and the attacking fleet. Commander Wells fought desperately to protect the surviving transports. Her destroyers engaged the Council ships, but they were badly outnumbered. The enemy had positioned themselves perfectly to catch the human fleet in a crossfire. Kate Phillips watched the battle from the colony's surface with growing horror. She could see the explosions in space as human ships died trying to rescue her people. The Council personnel at the colony were acting strangely too. Many of them had disappeared shortly before the attack began. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it ended, 9 of the 12 human ships had been destroyed. Only Danny's flagship, one of Susan's destroyers, and a fast courier ship piloted by Nancy Cole managed to escape the trap. The 3 surviving ships limped away from Kepler 442b with terrible news. The asteroid threat had been fake. The distress call had been a lie designed to lure human ships into an ambush. The Council had betrayed humanity and declared war without warning. Danny Rodriguez set course for Earth with his damaged ships and devastating information. The galaxy that humans thought was their home had become their enemy. The Council's plans for genocide were already underway, and Earth needed to prepare for total war. President Jonathan Hayes received the emergency call at 3 in the morning. His security chief woke him with news that Captain Rodriguez and the survivors from Kepler 442b had just arrived at Luna Station. The president dressed quickly and rushed to the secure briefing room deep beneath the White House. The room filled with Earth's most important leaders within the hour. General Patricia Stone arrived first, still wearing her military uniform from the late-night strategy session she had been attending. Dr. Kevin Price came from his secret research facility in Colorado. Admiral Charles Graham flew in from the orbital shipyards where he had been overseeing construction of new vessels. Captain Rodriguez looked exhausted as he stood before the assembled leadership. His uniform was torn and stained with blood from the battle. Commander Wells sat nearby with her arm in a medical cast. Both officers had dark circles under their eyes from the trauma of watching their friends die in the ambush. Rodriguez began his report with the fake distress call from Kepler 442b. He explained how the Evacuation fleet had rushed to save human lives only to find council ships disguised as void hunters waiting for them. The trap had been perfect. The enemy had used humanity's compassion and loyalty as weapons against them. General Stone asked detailed questions about the enemy ships and their capabilities. She needed to know exactly what Earth was facing. Rodriguez described how the council vessels had used advanced holographic technology to hide their true identity. Their weapons were more powerful than anything humans had seen before. The most shocking revelation came when Rodriguez played the recordings that Lieutenant Turner had made on Nexus Prime. The president and his advisors listened in, stunned silence as alien voices discussed humanity's destruction like it was a simple business decision. The council had been planning genocide for over a year. Dr. Price spoke up when the recordings finished playing. He had been working on classified weapons projects for the past 18 months. Something had made him suspicious of the council's intentions early on. He had kept his most important discoveries secret from their alien allies. Price explained that he had been reverse engineering alien technology recovered from various sources. Some came from crashed ships found in remote star systems. Other samples came from ancient ruins that predated the current council species. He had made breakthrough discoveries that even the aliens did not know about. The most important discovery was something Price called quantum disruption technology. The weapons could tear through energy shields like they were made of paper. They could also damage ships at the molecular level, causing metal hulls to simply fall apart. No known armor could stop them. Price had also developed new propulsion systems based on dimensional phasing technology. Ships equipped with these drives could briefly slip between normal space and another dimension. This made them nearly impossible to track or target with conventional weapons. General Stone asked how many ships Earth could equip with these new technologies. Price admitted that his production facilities were small. He had been working in secret with only a handful of trusted scientists. They could outfit maybe 50 ships in the next few months. Admiral Graham had different concerns. He wanted to know how much time they had before the Council's main attack force arrived. Intelligence reports suggested that the aliens were gathering fleets from across their territory. The combined force would be massive, possibly thousands of ships. Captain Maria Gonzalez had been running covert operations in neutral space for the past year. She had been mapping Council military installations and fleet movements without their knowledge. Her intelligence network included dozens of human agents working undercover throughout alien territory. Gonzalez revealed that the Council was planning a coordinated assault on Earth and all human colonies. They wanted to eliminate humanity in one massive strike. The attack would come in approximately 6 months when their fleet preparations were complete. The numbers were frightening. The Council could field over 3,000 warships plus support vessels. Earth's entire space navy numbered less than 200 ships. Even with Price's new weapons, the odds seemed impossible. But Gonzalez had more information that changed everything. Her agents had discovered that most Council worlds were defended by relatively small garrison fleets. The aliens were concentrating their forces for the attack on Earth, leaving their home systems vulnerable. General Stone saw the opportunity immediately. Instead of waiting for the overwhelming enemy force to arrive at Earth, humanity could strike first. They could hit every major Council world simultaneously, while the alien fleets were away preparing for their own attack. Dr. Price supported the idea. His new weapons were perfect for surprise attacks against unprepared targets. A small fleet equipped with quantum disruptors and dimensional phasing drives could cause devastating damage before the enemy could respond. President Hayes understood that they were discussing the most important decision in human history. If they waited for the Council attack, Earth would almost certainly be destroyed. If they struck first, they might save humanity, but they would be committing to total war with most of the galaxy. The president looked around the room at his advisors and military commanders. These people had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and humanity. Now they faced a choice that would determine whether humans had any future among the stars. Admiral Graham volunteered to lead the attack fleet. He had been studying Council military tactics for years through joint training exercises. He knew their weaknesses and how they thought about warfare. Most importantly, he understood that humanity's only chance was to hit hard and fast before the enemy could adapt. The plan that emerged from the emergency meeting was audacious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Every major council world would be attacked simultaneously. Military installations, government centers, and industrial facilities would all be primary targets. Captain Gonzalez would coordinate with her intelligence network to ensure the attacks happened at exactly the right moment. Her agents would provide real-time information about enemy positions and defenses. They would also work to sabotage key installations just before the attacks began. Dr. Price would oversee the rapid production and installation of the new weapon systems. Every available ship would be upgraded with quantum disruptors and dimensional phasing drives. Human engineers would work around the clock to prepare the fleet. The meeting ended with President Hayes authorizing Operation Retribution. In 3 months, the largest fleet in human history would launch surprise attacks across Council space. The aliens thought they were hunting prey, but they were about to discover they had awakened a predator. 3 months after the emergency meeting, Admiral Graham stood on the bridge of his flagship UES Victory as it prepared to jump into hyperspace. Around him, the largest fleet in human history was ready for battle. 160 ships equipped with the most advanced weapons Earth had ever built were about to strike 17 different targets across Council space. The plan was simple, but required perfect timing. Every attack had to begin at exactly the same moment to prevent the Council from warning each other or coordinating defenses. Captain Gonzalez and her intelligence agents had spent weeks confirming target locations and enemy fleet positions. At the Zephyrian homeworld of Zephyr Prime, Captain Michelle White commanded a squadron of 12 new Earth dreadnoughts. Her ships were equipped with quantum disruptors that could tear through the energy shields protecting the alien capital city. The Zephyrian Defense Fleet consisted of only 8 ships since most of their forces had been moved to staging areas for the planned attack on Earth. Michelle watched her tactical display as her ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system. The enemy response was immediate but confused. The Zephyrian ships moved to intercept, but they had never seen weapons like the ones humans now carried. The first quantum disruptor blast hit a Zephyrian cruiser and simply tore it apart at the molecular level. The alien ship did not explode or burn. It just came apart like someone had dissolved the glue holding it together. The crew had no time to escape or send distress calls. Within 30 minutes, the entire Zephyrian defense fleet was destroyed. Michelle's ships moved into orbit around the planet and began targeting military installations on the surface. The quantum disruptors made short work of the shield generators protecting the capital city. On Nexus Prime, the Council's political center, Colonel Steve Parker led 3,000 human soldiers in powered combat suits. His forces had been inserted onto the planet using stealth transports that phased in and out of normal space to avoid detection. The aliens had no idea humans were already on their most important world. The combat suits were marvels of human engineering, powered by miniaturized fusion reactors. They made each soldier stronger and faster than any natural alien species. The suits also had cloaking devices that made the wearer nearly invisible to most sensors. Parker's soldiers moved through the Crystal City like deadly ghosts. They systematically eliminated Council leadership, while space-based weapons bombarded military targets from orbit. The aliens had built their capital to be beautiful and inspiring, but they had not designed it to withstand a determined assault. High Counselor Vexthi was meeting with other surviving leaders when human soldiers appeared in her private chambers. She had been one of the voices on the recordings discussing humanity's destruction. Now she faced the consequences of that decision as human. Weapons ended her life and her plans for genocide. The Crystalline Collective's manufacturing. Worlds fell to Commander Helen Adams and her bomber wings. These planets produced most of the advanced technology that kept the Council's civilization running. Destroying them would cripple the aliens' ability to fight back or rebuild. Helen's bombers carried a new type of weapon that Dr. Price called molecular nanites. The tiny machines could consume any material and convert it into more copies of themselves. When released over a factory or military installation, they would eat through everything until nothing remained but gray dust. The crystalline worlds had no defense against this type of attack. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, not microscopic machines that could pass through any barrier. Centuries of industrial development vanished in a matter of hours as the nanites consumed everything they touched. The most shocking assault happened at the Council's primary military academy on Vega the 3. Major Frank Turner and Lieutenant Colonel Diana Ross commanded the attack. on what the aliens considered their most secure facility. The planet was protected by multiple defensive rings and automated weapons platforms that had never been defeated. The human fleet used dimensional phasing technology to bypass every defense. Their ships existed in normal space just long enough to fire their weapons, then shifted back into the other dimension before return fire could reach them. The automated defenses fired at empty space while human ships appeared and disappeared like deadly phantoms. The military academy housed the future leaders of the Council's armed forces. Young aliens from dozens of species were training there to command fleets and armies against enemies like humanity. Turner's soldiers made sure none of those future commanders would live to threaten Earth. At the same time, Captain Brad Collins was leading sabotage operations on 12 different worlds. His teams of human agents had spent months infiltrating alien facilities and learning their weaknesses. When the attacks began, they struck from within to disable shields, communications, and defensive systems. Collins himself was on the hegemony capital world when the human fleet arrived. He had been posing as a maintenance worker in the main power facility for 6 weeks. When the signal came, he planted charges that knocked out power to half the planet, including all military installations. The coordinated attacks were devastating beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. Their leaders had expected humans to be an easy target, weak and unprepared for real warfare. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that struck like lightning and showed no mercy. Amy Johnson commanded the intelligence operation that monitored Council communications during the attacks. Her teams intercepted desperate messages from alien commanders trying to understand what was happening. The Council forces were in complete chaos with no coordination or leadership. The human advantage came from more than just superior weapons and tactics. Earth's forces fought with the fury of a species that had been betrayed and marked for extinction. Every human soldier and pilot knew that failure meant genocide for their people. This knowledge made them fight harder than any alien could understand. Within 72 hours of the first attack, the Council's military power was broken. Their fleets were destroyed, their leaders were dead, and their industrial capacity lay in ruins. What had once been a mighty galactic empire was reduced to scattered survivors hiding in remote colonies. Admiral Graham sent a message to all remaining Council forces from his flagship, orbiting the ruins of Nexus Prime. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies so that every alien in the galaxy could hear humanity's response to betrayal. The age of Council dominance was over, and a new era had begun. 6 months after the human counterattack, Admiral Graham stood in what had once been the Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime. The beautiful crystal spires that had reached toward the sky now lay shattered across the planet's surface like broken dreams. The seat of galactic power for over 1,000 years was now a monument to the consequences of betraying humanity. The surviving Council members had fled to distant colonies at the edge of known space. Their mighty fleets were nothing but debris floating in the vacuum around dead worlds. Their industrial centers had been reduced to gray dust by nanite weapons that consumed everything they touched. The galactic civilization that had planned humanity's genocide was now extinct. Dr. Ellen Morris had arrived on Nexus Prime 3 weeks ago to serve as Earth's new ambassador to whatever remained of galactic civilization. She was working with representatives from dozens of alien species that had never been part of the Council. Many of these neutral worlds were eager to establish diplomatic relations with the humans who had freed them from Council domination. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. News of the human victory spread quickly through space, carried by merchant ships and refugee vessels fleeing the devastated Council worlds. Every species now knew that Earth's children were not to be taken lightly. Captain Tim Walker commanded the occupation forces that were overseeing the transition of former Council territories. His ships patrolled space lanes that had once been controlled by alien navies. Many worlds that had been oppressed by the Council actually welcomed human protection and guidance. Walker had been surprised to discover how many alien species had hated the Council's authoritarian rule. The Zephyrians, Crystalline Collective, and other major powers had forced smaller civilizations to obey their laws and pay tribute for centuries. Now those oppressed peoples were free to govern themselves for the first time in generations. But victory had come at a terrible price that weighed heavily on human conscience. The attack on the Council worlds had killed billions of alien civilians who had never chosen to be humanity's enemies. They had simply lived under governments that made the decision to betray Earth and plan genocide. President Hayes had barely slept since the reports of civilian casualties began arriving. He understood that humanity had faced extinction and needed to fight back with overwhelming force, but knowing that billions of innocent beings had died because of his orders was a burden that would stay with him forever. General Stone struggled with similar feelings as she read casualty reports from the occupied worlds. The human soldiers under her command had followed orders perfectly and saved their species from destruction, but she wondered if there could have been another way to achieve victory without so much death and suffering. Dr. Price had mixed emotions about his weapons being used so effectively. His quantum disruptors and nanite bombs had given humanity the tools needed to defeat a vastly superior enemy. But seeing entire cities reduced to dust made him question whether some weapons were too terrible to create. The moral weight of their actions affected every human leader who had planned and executed the counterattack. They had saved humanity from extinction, but at the cost of becoming the very thing they had once feared. A species capable of destroying entire civilizations. Admiral Graham sat in his private quarters aboard the Victory and began writing his final report on the war. He wanted future generations to understand both the necessity of their actions and the terrible price that came with such overwhelming victory. The document would become one of the most important pieces of writing in human history. Graham wrote about humanity's attempts to find peaceful coexistence among the stars. He described the years of cooperation and trust-building that had preceded the Council's betrayal. He explained how humans had shared their technology, resources, and friendship only to discover it was all being used to plan their destruction. The Admiral's report detailed the evidence of the Council's genocidal intentions found in the secret recordings. He explained how the alien leadership had viewed humanity's rapid advancement as a threat that needed to be eliminated before humans became too powerful to stop. Graham wrote about the difficult decision to strike first rather than wait for the Council's attack on Earth. He described the moral struggle of choosing between certain genocide for humanity and launching preemptive attacks that would kill billions of aliens. The most important part of the report was Graham's warning to future generations and any alien species that might read it. He wrote that humans had come to the stars in peace, offering friendship and cooperation to any who would accept it. They had been met with lies, betrayal, and attempted genocide. The Admiral explained that humans had responded as they always did when cornered and threatened with extinction. They had fought back with everything they possessed, using their intelligence, determination, and capacity for violence to ensure their survival. The Council had learned too late that betraying humanity carried a price beyond calculation. Graham's final words would echo through human space for centuries to come. He wrote that humanity was capable of great compassion and cooperation when met with honesty and goodwill. But they were equally capable of terrible retribution when faced with betrayal and threats to their existence. The report concluded with a message for any future alien civilizations that might encounter humanity among the stars. Graham advised them to choose wisely how they approached Earth and her children. Humans preferred peace and friendship but would never hesitate to defend themselves if threatened. The galaxy had been forever changed by the war between humanity and the Council. The old order of established powers controlling vast territories was broken. In its place, a new era began where human ships patrolled the space lanes and human values of individual freedom and self-determination spread to worlds that had never known such concepts. Merchant vessels from dozens of species now flew under the protection of human warships. Former Council colonies established democratic governments with human advisors, helping them learn how to govern themselves. The oppressive tribute system that had enriched the Council worlds for centuries was replaced by fair trade agreements. But the memory of what humans could do when betrayed remained fresh in every alien mind. Earth's fleet had arrived at 17 worlds simultaneously and left nothing standing of those who had chosen to be humanity's enemies. The lesson was clear and would not be forgotten. Humanity had proven that they belonged among the stars not as subjects or victims, but as the dominant power in a galaxy that now understood the price of underestimating Earth's children.